Hi everyone, my name's Declan McGlynn. Welcome to Friday Forum Live, Point Blank's weekly broadcast, bringing you exclusive tutorials, artist interviews and industry insight every Friday live from East London. Today we're taking a deeper look at Native Instruments' new synth and sequencer plugin, Rounds, a part of Complete 10. So today I'm joined by Point Blank tutor Daniel Herbert, and we're going to check out Rounds, which is a new digital analog hybrid with a unique interface, now part of Complete 10. Dan is our NI sound design course tutor, so if you fancy digging deeper into Complete and its sound design potential, make sure you check out our courses at online.pointblanklondon.com. And remember, we are live and interactive, so if you have any questions for Dan about Rounds or Complete or Point Blank in general, stick them in the YouTube comments. So Dan, welcome.
Thank you very much.
Back to FFL.
Well, indeed.
How's it going?
Yeah, not too bad. Thank you very much.
Good. So we've got some brand new keyboard, brand new piece of software. Exciting times.
All very exciting.
Yes. Do you want to introduce maybe Rounds first and what it is and what it does?
Yeah, too right. So Native Instruments released Complete 10 about 10 days ago, in fact.
Hey.
And with that was an update to a lot of the main kind of parts of it to integrate with Complete Control, and they also introduced some cool new synths, Rounds being one of them. So Rounds is actually an ensemble which runs in Reactor. So if you don't have Reactor, you can actually download the free Reactor player, or you can actually run it in Reactor as well. So I've actually got it loaded up for this demo here into Logic as a plugin within the Complete Control software, and that integrates really nicely with their new keyboard, okay, which is this keyboard going across here with all these funky lights and controls, etc. Let me get my screen back. So yeah, Rounds, as you said, is a kind of hybrid synth, and there's two parts to it. There's an analog engine and there's an FM synth engine as well. And when looking at it, it looks quite interesting, but actually when you get underneath it, it's actually quite simple, but there's some really cool functionality. And that's kind of determined by, if we look at the screen, you can see these, at the moment, they're kind of purple donuts going across the actual screen here, okay? And this whole section here is known as the voice programmer. So underneath, you've then got a kind of familiar kind of interface, which is a kind of analog synth. So you've got your oscillator section, you've got your filter section, mod section, outputs, where you can control the amp envelope and also route to the onboard effects. Okay, we can also call up the digital synth engine, and again, if you're familiar with FM synthesis, you'll recognize some of the controls here. So, I mean, all the kind of basic use of synths is something we cover in all our sound design courses, whether it's the Native Instruments sound design course or also the Ableton sound design course, and really kind of demystify what FM synthesis is about. Okay, so these type of parameters are very common. What isn't common, and what's really exciting and innovative about this synth, and this is Native Instruments have a habit of doing things like this, where they kind of turn synthesis on its head slightly and introduce new features which no one else has really thought of before, and allows you to do some quite interesting things. So Round, you can use it like a conventional synth. Okay, you can create really fat kind of lead sounds with it. You can create really nice luscious pads. You can create kind of digital FM textures, but also what it allows you to do is create kind of step sequence sounds. So either in terms of step sequence of different notes, or in terms of step sequence of changing the sound. So again, it kind of harks back to the 70s when you had these beasts of modular synths, where you had like an 8-note sequencer and you kind of rotated the dials to control the sound. Yeah. And we can do similar things within Rounds.
I was going to say that the design of this is similar to Molecular. And that reminded me of the System 100, you know, the Roland modules. That's the kind of layout they've gone for.
Exactly, and it's kind of constantly harking back, but reinventing it. And you're going to see it's kind of pretty cool. So essentially what the voice program allows you to do, or what Rounds does, is it dynamically allocates MIDI notes as they come in, okay? That sounds very sterile, so better play some sounds, and then you should be able to get a better idea. So I've got here I think this is a beta version I've got here. It's not the new version. So if you've already got this, you might find the presets look different. Okay, so this is a pad. It's just this particular sound is monophonic. Rounds itself is 4-note polyphonic, but it's capable of layering up multiple voices. Now, as I'm playing each note, you can see it's kind of moving through each of those donuts, and they're known as sound blocks. Okay, and each sound block is comprised of 4 cells. So at the moment, you're actually hearing 4 different sounds. Okay, so that's the kind of, if I just play a new note each time, it allocates the new MIDI note to each sound block. Okay, and you might be able to see on the screen here, round each of these sound blocks are numbers. Okay, and that relates to one of the synthesizers. So I think the best way to describe this is you've got 8 analog synths and you've got 8 digital synths. Okay, and you can allocate them however you want. The analog ones are this pinky color, okay, and the digital ones are a rather fetching cyan color as
Good old
well.
cyan.
Okay, and they're a big fan of the kind of cyan magenta, as you can see from the actual keyboard here.
I guess because when you're on stage, you didn't want to go for anything like too RGB because the lights would interfere with it, so it'll stand out more.
I mean, what would be really cool is if you can then color code your keyboard however you want, and you know what I mean, have your keyboard coloured to whatever you're wearing at the time, or yes. Things like that. But yeah, so I mean, if we just talk briefly about these lights before I go back to rounds, what you'll find with the Complete Control keyboard is it interfaces really nicely with a lot of instruments from Complete. Okay, so Polyplex, for example, which is their new drum machine, you find the drum notes correlate to the actual drum pads within Polyplex on the screen. If you use Contact with like multi-layered instruments with multiple zones, again, that's all reflected. I think they call it light guides within these actual funky colors. So it's more than just looking good. There is actually a useful function for them. Okay, good. And on this keyboard, you can probably see down in this bottom octave, there's some different coloured lights. I'll come to those in a bit. So I've just called up another sound. So again, just to give you a kind of flavour of what it can do, this patch is called Raw, and it's a sequenced patch. So I'm just going to speed it up. So again, what you're going to find when browsing through different instruments within Rounds and other instruments within Complete, we've got these kind of controls across the top, and we can basically go through different modes and edit different parameters. So I could speed that up into 16th notes. Okay, if I wanted to choose a different preset on this keyboard, we can just press this preset button down. Let's go down to AE Tech. So this is a pretty cool sound. So I'm not doing anything, I'm just holding down a chord. Just the way I like it.
As little as possible.
Exactly. So again, just to give you a kind of, just to give you another kind of flavour of other types of sounds it's capable of. This is a kind of nice, deep sound. Work really well on the kind of garage track.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, interestingly, you might have noticed looking at the screen, this is only playing back one sound block, okay? But you're hearing basically 4 different sounds in there, and you'll notice when I'm playing one key, it's actually playing a chord. Now this is the great thing about Rounds, because it allows us to layer up sounds. Now again, this is something I talk loads on and probably bore all the students at point blank about how important it is to layer up sounds. So if you're interested in getting fat sounds, it's about stacking up different layers, whether that's drums, whether it's synth sounds, and through doing that, you can really fill out the kind of frequency range. So this is a kind of stab sound. So if we quickly have a look at how this works. So back to the screen here, this is sound block number A, okay? The reason it's kind of only playing one and I'm playing one finger and it's sounding pretty fat is because we're also in unison mode, okay? So there's a number of different modes within Rounds. Now, we're going into quite a lot of detail on Rounds in a forthcoming tutorial series, which is forthcoming on Point Blank. So make sure you kind of keep your eyes open for that, and we're going to go into lots of detail on all the different sections, because you can go quite deep with this. So what we're going to do is, you can see here, this number here, 1, is highlighted, and that relates to analog synth number 1. If we click down here, this selects the specific synth. Okay, so look, synth one, if I mute the others, that's that fella, okay? And he's set to a pitch of -16. You've also got this control in the middle here. So within each oscillator on the analog synth, you've actually got 2 oscillators, okay? Oscillator 1, oscillator 2. This little control in the middle is offsetting that, okay? So that says +4, okay? So you've got 2 notes. When I play that note, go on to the next one. So select analog 2. This is tuned to -9. So this is all in semitones, and what it's doing essentially is creating a chord, okay? And again, the 2 oscillators are offset by 4 semitones, which is a major third. 3 is -2, and then 4 up here, okay, is set to -12. So through playing one note here, that's where you get that really nice chord underpinned by kind of really nice warm bass sound straight away, okay? So that sound's called At Night. I'm a big fan of that sound. Let's head down. Bass head. So a bit of kind of dubstep influence.
Yeah. So each block has different LFO rates as well.
Exactly. You can have, so depending on how you've set it up, you can, for each synth, you can have completely new settings, okay? So if we wanted to, we could have essentially 16 different sounds scrolling through, okay? Some of these sounds are more rhythmic. Here's another kind of, this is a kind of stab sound. So same principle. Okay, so really nice stab sound. We haven't got it that loud in the studio, but up loud, it's beautiful sounding.
The nice thing about that as well is that maybe in the past you would have had to load another synth with a sine wave to bolster the bass. In this case, you just add an extra
this is it.
And then give it a sine wave.
Exactly. So, I mean, these type of techniques of layering up, and the Ableton Sound Design course, for example, we look at creating instrument racks and then really stacking up like a series of analogs. When we're looking at the kind of like reactor, for example, then again we create kind of intervals to do that. With this synth, it's kind of doing all that work for you. So straight away you've got these really nice fat sounds, and it does sound pretty sweet. Another thing which I really think sounds awesome is the reverb unit on here. Sometimes reverb units on synths, they kind of their last consideration and they're a bit cheap sounding. This is beautiful, even makes sine waves sounds interesting. Okay, so
I'll take your word for that.
Well, indeed. If I had a sine wave patch set up right now, we would have a listen to it. Okay, so again, another example, lead sounds. I was saying about that multi-layered sound.
Yeah.
And now if you have a look at the screen, again, as I'm playing through the different notes, you can hear each note is sounding slightly different. So again, it's another thing we teach at Point Blank is about how to get movement into your sound, okay? It's so crucial. Sounds aren't static things, they're living things. And to kind of really bring your productions to life, you want those sounds to open out, tickle the back of your ears, and make the hairs on your back of your necks stand up, okay? And creating this kind of variation through this way certainly gives you that kind of difference in actual sound, okay? Percussion sounds, it can also do, so if I just preset down, percussion, so something a bit more industrial. So you can see it's all gone cyan, which indicates all these sounds are coming off the FM synth. Okay. Pad sound with a lot of movement. Now, you might notice when looking at the screen, if we look at sound block A, it's got this kind of radar thing going round the outside, okay? Hence this kind of term rounds. And that's to do with morphing, okay? So actually, Reactor's had morphing in it probably since the first release of Reactor, but not many people knew about it. It had the possibility and has the possibility to morph between snapshots. They really brought it to the fore with Molecular, which they released last year and had a whole kind of morphing programmer, which is cool. And again, we'll find it in rounds. So essentially the morphing feature here morphs between the different sounds. Okay, so we've got sound 2, sound 1, sound 4, and the other ones, yeah, are kind of muted for now, but they still kind of affect how it sounds. Okay, so again, this is where I was saying you get these kind of evolving textures, which is awesome at. Okay, good. Let's just scroll down a bit more, see if we've got any interesting sounds here. So again, in the forthcoming series, what we're going to do is kind of look at creating some specific sounds using the synth engines, because some people might not really have come across FM before, okay? And we'll kind of look at that in detail about how to create some different sounds, okay? So, kind of fat lead sound with a bit of kind of crunchy distortion. So, awesome kind of variations within the sounds themselves.
Yeah, and before we move on, I just got some questions from the YouTubers. Peter Silva wants to know if you can add your own audio samples, creating a selection of layered percussions, for example. It's a pretty good question though, because I was just thinking exactly the same thing about sampling into that. And
yeah, unfortunately no, because it's just purely a synthesizer.
Right, okay.
So at the moment, no, you can't, and you can't process anything through it. Okay,
Right.
I imagine you won't be able to in rounds. So it's purely a synthesizer.
Yeah, so maybe molecular would be a better option for that type of thing.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Or?
Rock Dog has, he's just commenting actually, saying that the interface looks like an easier and innovative way to work, which, I mean, like we said at the start, it's like, it's a little bit confusing at first, just to glance at, but the way you've just explained it, I mean, it just starts the idea of generator machine going, because it's like, oh shit, we could do this, we could do that.
Exactly.
So cool, interesting, yeah.
I mean, it's in some ways the interface is simple, but you've got these 16 sounds underneath, and actually it's really, really powerful. And it's been, again, really interesting to play around with it and to see what it can do.
Yeah, for sure. Fusion Ryzen wants to know, pretty broad question, but what's unique about runs compared to other fancy synths, apart from the interface? But I guess if you take away the interface, it is essentially just a great sounding subtractive and FM synth.
Exactly.
Much, yeah.
So, I mean, that's the thing. There's all these synth manufacturers out releasing new synths, and they're all the same. They're kind of variations on subtractive synthesis, perhaps with a bit of FM thrown in. But what really makes it unique is the voice programmer and how you can get these kind of stacked sounds.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. Really cool thing about it.
And in terms of when you're sequencing, can it go from like 1 to 4 to 2 to 1 to 3? Or is it always sequential?
You can do whatever you want.
Oh, yes.
Okay,
That's
so
what I hear.
this is why it's called a voice programmer.
Right.
So at the moment when I press a new note, if I just go back to that preset before, at the moment that's just kind of scrolling through, but what I could do is choose the dice, which is random, and then it kind of jumps through any particular kind of sequence as you want. Okay?
Right.
So there's different ways that you can set it up, and there's these different modes up here, how it plays through the different cells, whether it goes through sequentially or jumps through or layers up the sound. Okay?
Yeah.
And we can turn all these off. Some of the sequences you'll find are pretty interesting. So you've got a kind of the kick. So the kick is on sound 1, okay, and you can see it kind of cycles round, and each time it plays the pink kind of sound 1, you get the kick drum coming from it, okay. So you can basically sequence however you want to do it. This type of thing, I mean, I think that has real potential when you're playing live. Because obviously when you're in studio, it's actually quite useful if you've got a loop there working that way. But when you're playing live, it's really cool to be able to kind of jam with the sequencer and have that set up and manipulate in specific ways.
Yeah, and especially if you're making loop-based music that might have this pattern over time, instead of having to draw in automation. I mean, to draw on the automation that's happening in runs would take hours.
Well, yeah,
but
I mean,
it just happens automatically.
Definitely, and I mean, it'll take a fair amount of time to actually program it in the first place. But once it's programmed, then you actually have a lot of flexibility with it.
Yeah, nice one.
So yeah.
So cool. So yeah, hopefully you got a lot of insight into runs out of that, and plenty of inspiration for the weekend. And remember, if you want to learn more about sound design using NI Complete or any other music production, software, make sure you check out our courses at online.pointblanklondon.com. And speaking of native instruments, next week we will be at ADE. So make sure you come and see us at the playground, and there's plenty more info on that on our blog at plus.pointblanklondon.com. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. Cheers.